Welcome back to episode 16 of Project X, where we are taking you on a journey with us to find private label product opportunities, teaching you along the way so that you can build your own business using these same simple methods. I'm Bradley Sutton from Helium 10, and I'm joined by
Tim Jordan from Private Label Legion and AMPM Podcast.
Now, Tim, it's been so long since we have recorded another episode, that actually Helium 10 changed logos even. This is not even the right shirt. I'm going to get in trouble for wearing this old logo here. Let me try and disrobe here on Project X. There we go. There's the right logo. We even have a new logo. It's a pretty good looking logo, huh? Anyways, Helium 10 making a new logo is not the only difference we've had in 2020 since the last time we did an episode, is it?
Well, generally speaking, 2020 has been a little bit of a dumpster fire. It's been COVID, and it's been extremely interesting, obviously, to see the way the world has changed. But fortunately, a little piece of good news, it's been a good year for e-commerce. So being in the e-commerce sector, we've seen a lot of humongous growth. We've seen a lot of people who, unfortunately, lost their jobs, or maybe they were, worked at a restaurant, or maybe they worked in a brick and mortar retail store and lost income. But because e-commerce and platforms like Amazon allowed people to pivot quickly, we've actually seen a huge number of entrepreneurs forced to start their journeys and are now selling successfully. So it's been a year of ups and downs, but definitely a year of changes.
Yes, and speaking of what Tim was just talking about, we have both of us gotten countless messages, both private and in our Facebook groups, of some of these ones that Tim is talking about who have launched their e-commerce careers this year. And they say, hey, thank you, Project X. We're actually using those methods. It works. And we were able to launch a product using the same methods that you guys did. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that, because another question that we get sometimes is, wait a minute, that was kind of the beginning of 2020. I'm watching this in the beginning of 2021. Are these kind of strategies still relevant, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Guess what, guys? Things on Amazon change. 100% is not going to be the exact same way. But guess what, guys? The main structure of what we went over in this whole 15 episode series is very much intact. There's a few little things that I think we want to make sure people are updated on, right?
Yeah, we're going to update you on a few things that have changed. We're also going to talk about some new developments, some new opportunities that have come out since we wrapped up the 15th episode back, really at the very beginning of 2020, which seems like a lifetime ago. But yeah, to Bradley's point, what we're talking about is building a business based on demand with low competition, and that doesn't change. That doesn't change when Amazon changed their term of service. It doesn't change when a product becomes ultra saturated that we were strictly focused on. The methods still work, maybe even more so today than they did previously, because frankly, we've had a lot of people that have followed Project X that have helped us come up with ways to even refine the process and new methods and new ways to do some of these actions within the process that I've improved my ability to find products. So it's been a pretty cool journey over this past year.
Absolutely. Now, the first thing that we want to make sure everybody knows, hey guys, this wasn't some setup, that we just made up this information. The Project X products have been live on Amazon this whole year. We're going to show you some of those sales numbers, and I know you guys have been watching them. These products grow, and you guys calling me out on Facebook when you see that they're not in stock because Bradley dropped the ball and let the inventory run out. So I know you guys are watching this, but I want to share some of the numbers with you guys today. We're going to do that. We're going to talk about a phenomenon that sometimes happens when your product is public. That's happened on Alibaba. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to talk about some things that you need to keep in mind that definitely impact you who are just getting started, that are different than the first time that we talked about making a listing, such as something to do with GS1 barcodes. We're going to talk about something, inventory limitations. There was no such thing as inventory limitations kind of before 2020. And when we were doing Project X, we sent in like 1,000 units to Amazon. Guess what? If you're starting on Amazon now, you can't do that anymore, at least for the time being. So we're going to let you guys know how to deal with things like that. Anything else? The financial side of it.
Yeah, so Helium 10 now has a financial platform, Alta. We're going to talk about how that helped our Project X account scale. We're going to talk about brand name restrictions, which is important when it comes to especially the test listings and things like that we talked about. So lots of updates on the performance. We're going to talk about lots of updates on the way in which you sell on Amazon, and we're going to share some new stuff with you in this episode.
Now, real quick, let's just get started with a recap.
Take a look at our sales from last year, guys. January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, gross revenue of over $200,000. And this is the key right here, with a profit margin of 21%. Now, keep in mind, guys, that this is, with me doing tons of testing, and I'm doing different PPC tests and probably throwing a lot of money away. And we were still able to keep a 21% profit margin. We sold about $30,000 worth of the egg trays, as you guys can see here, and almost $200,000 of the coffin shelves by itself. And this is, again, with me running out of stock all the time because I don't know what I'm doing with my inventory, and with just spending tons and tons of money on PPC, more than I normally would, and not even paying that much attention to this account. So guys, this is a great number to see. Despite all of that, to see this 21% profit margin and over $200,000 of gross sales.
Tim, can you do some just really rough math here about, this is just a couple products here, what somebody else who was doing this full time, as opposed to me, who this is just, I'm doing this 2-3 hours a week, what could this have become?
So I firmly believe that if we had stayed in stock and we'd done a little more focusing on this, and we hadn't eaten up a lot of our budget on things like test PPC stuff for other products and all that stuff, I think that easily this could have profited $40,000 or $50,000 a year, right? Now, what's interesting about that is we're talking about profit, not sales numbers, because so many people right now in this e-commerce, digital marketing, Amazon space talk about sales number. Oh, I want to hit 7 figures. I want to hit 8 figures. I was at a conference once where someone said, hey, all of you getting awards for 7 and 8 figure sales, I want to see your bank account. I want to see how much money you have. And his point was the sales volume doesn't matter nearly as much as profitability. So 20% roughly profit margin on this. We started this with how much money in inventory? $5,000, I think. It was very, very little. So my point is, when you find the right products that are in demand at low competition, that essentially sell themselves once you post it up. Remember, we were already hitting page 1, position 1, Gothic home decor for a 9,000 search volume keyword without even attacking it, right? We weren't even trying. So our point is, we didn't do this to show you $1 million product. I don't care about $1 million product. I care about something that we can show you, the listeners, on how to get started in this with relatively low investment, that is profitable, that's scalable. Because if we spent time looking for additional products and adding this account, it would only take 5 or 6 products like this to hit $1 million in sales and be doing 6 figures in profit, right? That's amazing. There are so many people that are watching this that have talked to us and said, hey, listen, to us, success is an extra $1,000 a month in our pocket, or an extra car payment, or a mortgage payment, or, something like that. And that's great. You can do that. Or you can scale this up and you can make a phenomenal amount of money. The other thing is, we didn't do a lot of the advanced tactics here. We didn't get deeply into EBC. We didn't get deeply into all of the enhanced branding and advanced PPC and digital display ads and all that stuff. We didn't do that. We kept this very, very basic for a reason, to show you, you don't have to be super, super technically advanced to make money doing this, right? We didn't get into omni-channel. We didn't do any of that stuff. We kept it very, very basic. So
you can see from this graph here some of those big gaps, guys. This is not a Helium 10 error. This is when you see no blue lines, that's Bradley's been out of stock for over a month here and here, and even right now been out of stock. But you can see some of these peaks, guys. It is crazy. It wasn't because of Halloween or something. I mean, look at some of this in April and May. We had days where we sold 40 up to 50 coffin shelves in a day. So for those people out there, I know that, we've said it a million times, but I know you guys still hear it. People will tell you, oh, it's too late to sell on Amazon. Everything is saturated. Guys, you do not understand the American consumer and how there's always going to be something weird that you would never guess that people want. I mean, think about it. We have sold thousands of shelves that are shaped like a coffin. I mean, there's literally thousands of people, thousands of houses in the United States where somebody on their wall or on their thing has a shelf shaped like a coffin. Guys, there are tons of product opportunities out there. Don't limit yourself just to what you think, oh, like, you know, I would never buy that thing. Yep. Guess what? You might not, but there's tons of other people who would.
And what's the saying? There's riches in the niches.
Yep.
And there's so many niches out there, you couldn't even imagine all of them. So keep poking around, keep looking. And I'll also say this, we've had a lot of positive feedback. We've also had some negative feedback, or maybe not negative, but frustrated feedback. Tim, I've been looking for products. I can't find anything. I can't find anything. I can't find anything. And a lot of times that happens. And a lot of times it's your first attempt, right? I will say this, don't give up. And once you start identifying potential products, it will get easier and easier. It'll snowball because you'll have the experience to understand the good indicators as well as the negative indicators. You'll be able to process through that faster. So practice, practice, practice. I know several people, like even in my coaching community, that it took them 4 or 5 months to find their first product. But after they found their first one, a couple weeks later, they found their second one. And a few weeks later, they found their third one. And now, just this year, they've launched 3 products. They're going to do 6 figures in sales, at least a solid 5 figures in profitability with a $10,000 initial investment, right? But my point was, if you get frustrated early on in that journey and you don't get through those hurdles and you don't learn to crawl before you can walk, before you can run, then you'll never end up running later. So have some patience. The process works.
Now, one thing that Tim and I said multiple times in the earlier episodes is, guys, do not try and sell this product because there are tens of thousands of people all watching this. All the factories in China are watching this on YouTube, and everybody and their mother and their brother and their sister-in-law is going to be wanting to launch wooden egg trays and coffin shelves. That was our what we had predicted, and we had even said, I remember Tim said, hey, you know, even though I'm saying this, I know there's still going to be people doing it. So did that happen? Let's take a look, guys. All right. So, and you guys could do this on your own computer as well. Let's type in coffin shelf. And unfortunately, you're not going to see right this second. Probably when you guys are watching this, you'll see our coffin shelf back up and running. But right now,
somebody screwed up our inventory again.
But this is pretty funny. You know, we've got Gothic Curiosities. We've got Goot wood.
It's either Goot or Goute.
Exactly same dimensions. We've got another Goot one here.
So someone's
what is this brand name? Some of the brand names were just pretty ridiculous what they decide. Glen Barn, that's nothing special, but they just completely copied the same exact dimensions. Look at this. Not Manny's Mysterious Oddities.
Stan's Spooky Strangeness.
Stan's Spooky Strangeness they did. Here we got a coffin shelf large. What's their brand name that they picked? Hand, Soar, I don't know. They're at least kind of unique. You know, they did a little bit different design. But look at this. I mean, you didn't see any of these things before, and now there's just rows and rows of coffin shelves here.
Let me say this. Mm-hmm. This doesn't mean that our methods don't work because, oh, Tim, you found something that became saturated later. The point is these only became saturated because it was public.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that is we launched it based off of, it was Sourpuss, the brand.
Yes.
Sourpuss, who'd been selling this thing for years, right? So this wasn't a brand new thing. So don't be discouraged and say, oh, everything's gonna get saturated. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. It's obvious that people were knocking off our exact product, right, just because it was public. So Stan's Spooky Strangeness, if you're watching this, great name, but you're not going to make any money on it. Congratulations.
And that's the thing, guys. Hey, there was some times here where there was like 7 or 8 competitors, and guess what? Our sales didn't go down.
No.
Our sales didn't go down. There is something to be said about, even if a bunch of people are bandwagoners, if you're first to market and you get established, and Amazon recognizes that, and they're going to keep you prioritized. And then plus, you've got all those reviews now that are legitimate, and these people are trying to come in with 0 or 1 reviews. So it's not like, oh, we got competitors, I'm just going to go ahead and let this product run out of stock because I'm not going to be able to be profitable anymore. I didn't lower the price. These people are coming in at $27, $26. I didn't lower the coffin shelf, and we were still selling 20, 30 plus units a day. That's why we sold out, because there was a huge spike in sales.
So when we're talking about, we know this didn't just get saturated because it was a bad product idea, but people were copying us. One way that we know that is because we saw all sorts of perfect Project X test listings for the coffin shelf and the egg trays. Like, these were classic by the book, exactly how we told you to do it. And Bradley and I would occasionally talk and say, look, there's another test listing, 3 times the price, horrible pictures, yada, yada, yada. The second way that we know people are copying Project X and not just the products is
Alibaba. You remember what happened of why we didn't do that burrito blanket?
Yep.
You guys remember that? Let us know real quick. If you're watching this live, put it before we say the answer. Okay, too late. We went to Alibaba, and it was just everybody had the same exact picture, and we're like, okay, this is obviously, maybe it's not yet saturated on Amazon, but we know it's gonna get saturated because we can see the signs here on Alibaba. That now is the case for coffin shelf. Remember, if I recall correctly, we typed in coffin shelf in Alibaba, nothing came up. We just had to find a generic
There was
wood
nothing. We couldn't
shelf,
even find a supplier. We had to find a supplier that we had to send prototypes and like actually had to make this. But now look at Alibaba.
Look at this. This is our pictures.
Look, the same name. Mysterious Oddities.
Yeah, this is a Mysterious Oddities coffin shelf. And they've got even different kinds. There's a green one right there.
Amazon Hot Sale 2020 Gothic Decor. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, look at this.
I actually love the fact that we have a product here that Alibaba is now saturated in copying.
I'm going down to the very bottom. These are all our pictures. There's that one guy. He's already got some styles. Look at that. I mean, who knows? This probably keeps going to page 2 and 3. So this is something that, again, even despite this happening, it didn't really affect our sales. So I know some of you guys will freak out about this, like if this happens to your product, but it doesn't mean that your sales are going to go down in flames or anything like that. But it's just something to be aware of, that this is probably going to happen. And hey, if anything, it's a sign of your success that people are wanting to copy you and do that. But if you were the first in the market or one of the first, you should have a nice solidified hold, hopefully on that top spot. Wooden egg tray. Look at this. We're still Amazon's choice. There's Gee's chicken coop. We just hit 100 reviews on this. But look at all these. Look at all these different wooden egg holders. Now there was one that was scary, and I'm going to see if I can find them. They might have come out of stock. There was somebody. They used our pictures, but look at this right here. This is a picture of Michelle on the affiliate team. We never used this picture for Project X. I don't know how they got this picture. Like they hacked our Dropbox or something. I'm gonna call them out. By the way, guys, you can do this. I think they were from like Singapore or something. You just click their store name. So Trade Talent, oh no, they moved to Houston. They used to say Singapore. So Trade Talent, I don't know how you're hacking my Dropbox, but I'm reporting you to Amazon soon if you don't take these are Mika took these pictures right here. This guy is using our pictures here.
That's true.
Yeah, these are our pictures. But this is the one that scares me. Like, how did he get this lifestyle image? It never was in our listing. Anyways, his BSR, I mean, he's offering this for $16.90, same exact product. We're still over $20, and we're still beating them on sales. We've got the Amazon's choice. So again, this is another one. Now, the egg holder never sold as much as the coffin shelf, and we didn't expect it to. But hey, we're selling 5-6 units a day. We pay like $3 for this, and we're selling it for $21. It is what it is, right? So guys, there's definitely opportunity out there. And what happens is you're going to be able to expand out what you guys start with. Take a look at this. I don't think you've ever seen this, Tim. I'm about to cost us $1 because I'm going to click on our sponsored ad. But what do you see right about here?
The old 12-egger.
12-egg right there. So now we launched another variation. Can you talk about, like, regardless of the niche, sometimes there's opportunity to launch different variations of your core product?
Yeah, once you already have the traffic coming to the listing, the different variations would be things like colors or size or not necessarily material. The way I feel about variations is a variation should be color or size. If it's a different material, it actually becomes a different product, right? But once you have traffic coming to the egg tray listing, then if there was a different color wood, or if there was a painted one that was like that kind of rustic white color, there's a lot of different ways to do that. However, for this Yeti type product, I wouldn't assume that a variation is really gonna, move the needle on my sales.
Yeah.
Right? The variations to me are extra bonuses. The actual product demand is based on keywords, not the variations. So unless people are looking for a wooden egg holder and white painted rustic wooden egg holder, don't do the white version, as like a standalone product. Just do it as a variation on this. if you think that it'll increase the sales and maybe differentiate your listing a little bit, things like that. So don't get too confused about the difference between a variation and a new product, and don't base your potential growth just on variations, because generally they're like an added bonus, but it's not really going to change things up too much.
Yeah, part of this, I don't remember if it was from a review or if it was one of those questions that a buyer submits or buyer-seller message, but somebody had said, hey, you know, this doesn't really fit in our refrigerator, the door. I mean, it fits in a refrigerator, obviously. And so, you know, the refrigerator-based keywords were pretty important, you know, to this product. And I was like, man, we got to the top of page 1, but then we kind of fell off. I was like, well, what can you do? But then when I got that message, I tested it in my refrigerator, and sure enough, it does not fit in the door one where people usually put those plastic ones. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna redesign this. There's some people who only buy, I mean, you don't buy 18 eggs usually at a time, you buy a dozen. So I'm like, it just makes sense, it made sense to me. Let me make one for a dozen, and I'm gonna market this on those keywords that were for a refrigerator door, and I'm gonna put it in my lifestyle images. This here is my actual refrigerator at home. I took this picture.
Oh, it's very clean.
Yep.
Good job. You probably had to clean that just for this
just for that. Yeah, just for that. You already know it. And also, I noticed in our reviews, people were talking about different uses that I never would have thought about. And I'm going to show you some of these right here. Look at this. These all came from reviews and customer crowdsourcing. I would have thought that people use it for sushi. But hey, there's people who use it for sushi. Yeah, I found a way to put the deviled eggs in there. We used to think that it wasn't going to be, but you can actually place it in there. I don't know how to say this word.
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
A charcuterie board.
A charcuterie board.
You can't even say it right.
I can't even say it right.
A charcuterie board.
Yes. And a dessert tray. So there's a product. We also did something similar for the coffin shelves. What I did was I talked to the factory, the same factory that from our very first order. I'm like, hey, we're selling these black coffin shelves. We saw that the Sourpuss company, like years and years ago, they would have like green and purple and all these crazy colors. I'm like, can we try 5 different colors? Because it didn't require me to invest in like an MOQ or anything, because it's the same exact coffin shelf. They just spray paint it in different colors. So I was like, can I have 1 box each of I did brown, pink, purple, red, and green. I was like, let's give it a try. And I made it. I kind of used the same theories that we talked about in episode 3 and 4 with the PPC test listings. I'm like, let me test these listings out with some actual inventory, and let's see if there's any takeoff. And sure enough, the pink and the purple one took off, like sold out of those within like a week. Like, I don't even understand why people like black coffin shells, much less pink and purple coffin shelves. But hey, it is what it is. And so what I did now, it's probably today's or tomorrow's gonna deliver our first mass shipment of the pink and purple. So that was a way that we wanted to expand out the brand. And the other reason I did that, and we're gonna talk about this in future episodes, that's going to be inside of Freedom Ticket, we'll talk about that later, but is for sponsored brand campaigns, what do they require? You know, those headline ones? Can I do it just with one product?
No, you have to have multiple products to actually build out a storefront.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have 3 for the sponsored brand, and then for the storefront, you don't want a storefront with just like one product in there. It looks terrible. So I was like, how can I have multiple SKUs so I can start taking advantage of some of these new sponsored brands that are available, or sponsored brand ads that are available to Amazon sellers. So we did that. We're going to talk about that in future episodes as well. But now, so Tim, like I said at the beginning, there's people who have had the questions like, hey, that was filmed 8 months ago. Some of the product research methods you guys use, is it still relevant, today? What do you say to that?
Yeah, and I do want to clear up a little bit of confusion. There are so many people that have messaged us like with great comments, and some people with frustrated comments. And a lot of people listened to 80% of Project X and ignored a few little things that we dropped along the way. One of those is when we were very clear that this is not the only way to do private label, right? There are multiple ways to do this. Now, we talked about things like flying under the radar and the keyword pyramid, and the reasons why I like what I consider to be a Yeti product. All right, Yeti product follows that Yeti principle. You find it, there's demand with very little to no competition, right? It may not be a huge seller for you, but you can own that. When I think back to like the different types of products that I've launched, in the past, I don't know, even few weeks, I've really developed different categories for the different types of Amazon private label products. And what I like to do is explain to you those 3 primary categories, and then we'll see where the coffin shelf and the egg tray fit in. And the reason for this is we want people to understand not to take everything super literally, saying like this is the only way to launch, or just because we didn't talk about building an audience prior to launching, that's not important for other products. So the way that I break down the types of private label products that you can sell on Amazon is 3 different categories. One is what I call the Yeti product, all right? That's the product that is in demand, pretty much no competition. When I say in demand, based on keywords, people are specifically looking for something, and you just have to go out and find it. Remember my example of that Yeti cup, right? They didn't invent it, they didn't design it, they didn't engineer it, they just found it and they sold it. So that's the first one, is the Yeti product. The second one is what I'm now calling the better mousetrap, all right? And Bradley's never heard me talk about this. So there's the expression of like, you want to build a better mousetrap, right? You want to build an improved product. I think that the better mousetrap is probably the most common mainstream taught private label method. This just means that you're taking something that's out there and you're improving upon it, all right? So if we had to break down the coffin shelf and the egg tray, we've got 2 different ones, right? Mm-hmm. So the coffin shelf would be the Yeti product. Yeah. It really wasn't offered, but people were looking for it. We just had to find it. The egg tray really is a better mousetrap, because when you think about the keywords that we essentially launched the egg tray on really were egg tray. And egg tray, the keyword itself, was saturated, okay? Meaning there was tons of relevant options that matched egg tray when you typed in egg tray, okay? So the keyword is saturated. The reason that we knew our product idea wasn't saturated is our variation. Remember, we looked at Pinterest, we looked at Etsy, we saw the wood ones were popular, let's launch it. So coffin shelf, Yeti product, egg tray was a better mousetrap. We just offered a better option, a better variation on something that was actually fairly saturated and competitive based on keywords. So the methods for launching these 2 can vary, right? You remember how fast we ranked up with the Yeti the Yeti product? I mean, it was like, boom, we're on page 1, position 1 for keywords with 9,000. The egg tray was slower. Remember, it's slower, and we had to do a few search, find, buy giveaways. We were more aggressive with PPC, and there are different reasons why you do both. I'm not saying one is necessarily better than the other. I like the Yeti products, but the truth is, you will probably find more better mousetrap products than you will Yeti products. So like even in my coaching group, I tell people all the time, we're looking for Yetis, but don't dismiss these better mousetraps, because you can definitely make money in those. Now, the third type of product is something that you run into quite frequently when you're diving down these crazy rabbit trails. And I'm calling that product the bright idea, okay? Now, this is a product that may be a wonderful idea, a product that everybody needs, but nobody knows it exists, right? Now, that's extremely hard to sell that product, largely because nobody knows it exists. So, for example, you want to see a bright idea product that I'm just starting a project on? Here in Amazon, type in wet sleeve.
W-E-T?
W-E-T.
1 word, 2 words?
It doesn't matter. So check this out. This is something that some friends of mine invented. And this is for like active athletic lifestyle, hydration essentially. So if you don't want like a heavy Camelback hydration pack on, you put this thing on your arm, and it's 12 ounces, and it has the little water thing you drink out of, the nozzle. So it's a great product, right? It's really cool. It's patented. There's all sorts of different people interested in it. But why on earth would that be so difficult to sell on Amazon? It's because nobody knows it exists. Yeah. So what we have to do with a bright idea product is, again, that's not necessarily a variation. It's not just a variation on a water bottle. It's a whole different category. And as you're diving through different research processes, finding these different potential Yeti products, you will find these products. You go, oh my gosh, that's great. But you identify it as a bright idea as opposed to a Yeti product based on a complete lack of search volume, right?
Yep.
Now, this is inventions. These are like brand new things that may be a great product to launch on Kickstarter. Like I'm launching a product right now that's on Indiegogo actually, that it's just not perfect for Amazon because nobody on Amazon is even going to know how to find this thing, right? So just keep that in mind. I'll review that briefly. You've got your Yeti products, your better mousetraps, and your bright ideas. We covered extensively the Yeti products, the better mousetraps, But while people are doing research, especially for those Yeti products, they're finding these bright ideas. Just keep in mind that all of these take a different method, they take a different process, and they're actually going to take an ascending level of difficulty to launch, right? So your Yeti products are easy, better mousetraps, more competition. You have to, differentiate. The bright ideas, frankly, can be extremely difficult to launch. So if you have any question about those 3 different product types, you can carry on that discussion in the Helium 10 Facebook group. There's some different places we can start categorizing that. But I just wanted to categorize that so that nobody thinks there's just one way of doing private label.
Yep.
There's really 3 different types of private label that you can do. And just going forward in additional content and things like that, I want to start breaking those into those different categories just so we can help organize that in our minds. So as we talked about at the very beginning, we know that things change. And what we want to do is make sure you have the most updated information on selling on Amazon. And there were some things that we told you that were highly accurate at the time, but Amazon has changed. And we want to now give you like a list of updates, not just with, slight variations in the methods based on some updates with terms of service and requirements, but also some new tools that are available that weren't available when we first filmed, this case study. So the first one has to do with UPC codes.
Yep. I mean, we barely touched it because it was just kind of a thing that everybody did. I think we bought the barcodes from,
Speedy Barcodes,
something like that.
Barcode.com. It didn't matter. They were repurposed GS1 barcodes, so that was still within terms of service and it was perfectly allowable.
Yeah, but now what we've been pushing and we've been seeing lately is, hey, we really need to get the barcodes from GS1. And it's not just GS1 USA. You can get it from, I think there's a Canada, GS1, there's a UK. I personally get mine from the UK because it's the cheapest. Now, if you guys want more information on the process and the pricing, go to helium10.com/blog and type in GS1 barcodes. I did a whole 1,500 word blog with step-by-step on how to purchase and why you would want to purchase from these locations. But that is something that has probably changed in the last 8 months, where we now are shifting from, hey, you can get your barcode almost anywhere, to try and get it from GS1 because Amazon is actively checking if that is where they come from.
And although it's more difficult to do that, that's actually a benefit to us, because the more difficulty there is and the more layers there is to do this thing the right way, the less people are going to be competing with us. And honestly, the reason that Amazon is now requiring you to purchase directly from GS1 is because they're trying to stop counterfeiters and they're trying to start creating more brand awareness. And what's interesting about UPC codes from GS1 is the first set of numbers in that barcode are actually attached to a brand name, right? So if I buy from Speedy Barcodes or buybarcode.com and I'm buying old UPC codes that were never actually used but were attached to a brand, and I'm trying to set up Manny's Mysterious Oddities listing, but that brand prefix is attached to a tool brand that was sold to Lowe's in the 90s, it doesn't quite match up. So it's a little bit more of a hassle, but go ahead and you can buy just a few barcodes at a time, especially from GS1 UK. Yeah. At the time we're recording that's the case, and it's fairly inexpensive. Go ahead and do that for your product. Now, for the actual PPC test listing, it doesn't mean that you need to go buy and burn through these expensive UPCs and GS1 barcodes. You can actually still use GTIN exemptions, right? And GTIN exemption is something that Amazon allows us to do, especially for these products that we don't want to have a true brand name attached to it, and we don't want to invest in these expensive UPC codes. But doing that, you run into another problem, which is brand names, right? Do you want to explain what happened? You used to be able to type in any brand name. That's why we had Gee's Chicken Coop and Manny's Mysterious Oddities. Now that's a little bit tougher to do. You want to explain that?
Yeah, so pretty much it's one big thing in 2020 that changed is you can't just go in and make up a brand name and start your listing from scratch. You're going to get this error message that has been called brand, or the 566 brand 5665 error message. I wrote a blog on this and I said that sounds like some kind of Star Wars reference. Remember that there's an order 661 or something like that. So this is for Star Wars
what
fans.
What a nerd.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. Anyways, brand 5665 error. Basically what that means is it's saying that, oh, you don't have brand registry for this brand. You can't create it. Now, what happened is a lot of people got super scared. What? Do I have to have brand registry now in order to, launch a product on Amazon? The answer is no, you don't have to. However, you have to kind of prove that it's a legit brand, all right? So we don't have time to like go over the details. We're gonna put the link in the show notes where I have all the screenshots of what I did to get around this. But in a nutshell, you basically can start off by putting like not applicable or TBA or TBD. There's all these different ones that work at different times. But at the end of the day, then the next step is you open up a case with Amazon, and then you've got to prove to them that the brand that you want to change it to is legitimate. So like what we would have had to do if we launched the coffin shelf now is we would have put like N/A, right? And then I open up a case with Amazon and say, hey, I need to change this from N./A to Manny's Mysterious Oddities. Here's a picture of the actual product that shows the logo of Manny's Mysterious Oddities. It has the UPC that I'm trying to attach to this product. Here's my I showed a website. I made like a website for it. Look, this is obviously the product. And like within 12, 14 hours, you'll get a message, oh, you're good to go. You can go ahead and use Manny's Mysterious Oddities, even without brand registry.
Yeah.
So again, please don't send us hate mail and say, hey, you guys said you can do whatever you want with your I don't know why I always do a Southern accent when I don't know.
Well, why is there gonna be a Southern accent when it's hateful people?
Yeah, right. Dang nabbit, you guys told us the wrong thing to do. Anyways, guys, make sure to check the show notes for those instructions on how to get around that. Now, another thing that happened this year, it happened twice, all right? First of all, at the peak of the coronavirus, Amazon limited the amount of products that you could like have in Amazon at a certain time. Then they took it away for a few months. Mm-hmm. And then again, right when Q3
before Prime
started,
Day.
Yeah, before Prime Day, yeah. Q3, Q4, now all of a sudden again, now it's 200. Like if you have a brand new product, you can only send in 200 at a time, or not necessarily at a time, but have a total of 200
units per
in your system. And we had told you, or what we had shown you, what we did was we shipped a whole bunch, like hundreds of units from our MOQ to Amazon. So Tim, like, how have you and your audience been getting around this issue?
Well, with a lot of headaches and tears, honestly, we were trying to figure this thing out. And I will say that what's happened is, the changes that COVID created with the logistics systems, not just with some fulfillment centers being closed temporarily for, workers that had COVID, but also just the massive amount of people that are buying and selling on, e-commerce platforms like Amazon. It strained the system. So Amazon couldn't keep up with the inventory. They're like, just send us 200 units. Well, that created problems because, myself, a lot of people I know, we're ordering units, in 2,000 number quantities and 3,000 number. And, what do we do with that stuff? Because typically you'd send that straight to Amazon and you try to sell through it. So what COVID has forced us to do is start creating practices that are more platform agnostic, right? Like we can't put all of our faith in one platform being Amazon. And this is actually a good practice because, I tell people all the time, I love Amazon, but don't be an Amazon seller. People are like, what? And like, sell on Amazon, but don't just think of yourself as an Amazon seller. Be an e-commerce seller that uses Amazon, right? So what we've been forced to do is think about how we can start to become more omni-channel as we grow our businesses. So to answer your question, what I've started doing and what other people in my group started doing is relying on third-party fulfillment centers, okay? So instead of shipping 1,000 units to Amazon, what we'll do is we'll ship our 1,000 units to a fulfillment center, right? A 3PL. And at that 3PL, we'll decide to split up our inventory. Say, all right, if we can only send in 200 units, let's get 200 units going to FBA right now. Let's keep the other 800 units in the fulfillment center. Now, when you launch a product, you really want to do it FBA. But let's say we're beyond the launch. Let's say we're the coffin shelves right now. We're just trying to keep our stuff going. One thing that you can do on a listing is have two purchase options, an FBA option and a merchant fulfilled option, okay? So what that will mean is it'll show up as two people essentially having, listings created, but it's still you. And there's a ton of examples we could show people that have that. So what this means is the buy box automatically reverts to the option that is FBA when there's FBA inventory. But when your inventory runs out, your merchant fulfilled option fills that place in the buy box. So your product never actually goes out of stock. Now, this is a solution that may not be great for everybody. One reason is because Amazon FBA fulfillment is extremely cheap. I mean, it's like dirt cheap compared to most of the industry out there. So if you're fulfilling through a third-party logistics service, 3PL, the fulfillment cost may cost a little bit more. So if you have extremely tight margins, low margins, this doesn't work for you. But for the products that we like to sell that are 100% ROI or 20% profit margin, something like that, we can afford to take a hit just to keep our stuff selling. So I don't know if there's another workaround. If any of you have found a really, really great solution that's not black hat, I know there's some crazy black hat stuff going on that I've seen. I do not.
I got blue hat.
Yeah, I do not condone that at all. But the best solution that we found for the inventory limits is start relying on third-party fulfillment centers that can ship some inventory to Amazon and also ship directly to consumers. And you can utilize seller fulfilled Prime, and there's all sorts of stuff that we can get into in some further content where you can still have the Prime badge as well.
So basically what Tim was talking about using 2 different SKUs, again, wrote a blog on that because we knew it was very information that people needed to know. So check the show notes to find the step-by-step instructions on how to do that, as well as other ways that you can get around this 200. We don't suggest getting around it as far as trying to hack the system. There's people who try to do that. They got a slap on the wrist. Don't do that. In a nutshell, if you're selling like 3, even 4 or 5 units a day, it only takes like 2 weeks. Amazon increases your inventory limits like 400, 500. And if you're selling more than 3, 4, 5 units a day, it goes up even higher. So it's not like the end of the world. Don't think that.
Yeah, it's not a permanent thing.
Yeah.
200 limit is not permanent.
Yeah.
It's just, as of now, as we're recording this, just for new SKUs.
Yeah, and guys, it's probably going to go away. The COVID weird world that we're living in right now, I'm sure it's going to get better one day, but guess what? Something else might happen where there might be inventory limitations. At least now you guys will know how to deal with it. Another thing to keep in mind, I don't remember exactly what we had said was the best practices for contacting your buyers, to ask for reviews. It absolutely is still suggested that you do that. It helps get reviews by automatically contacting your customers to ask for a review, but Amazon is getting more and more strict with how you do it. The language that you can put in there, the number of times. You used to be able to send like 2, 3 messages to a buyer. No longer. You can only send 1. And the language, they are so picky with they used to only like block you. Like if you say, hey, leave me a 5-star review, and I'll give you a free something, then you'll get blocked. But now, even if you say like, hey, if you had a great experience, we'd love to have your review, and if there's something we can help you out with, please contact us. Guess what? That might sound great to you. You're going to get suspended if you put that in your messaging to your buyers. So make sure to check the terms of service as far as what you can say and not say to buyers. And Helium 10 for free has a Chrome extension that you can actually use Amazon's. If you're just like, hey, I don't want to have to worry about customizing my message. I just want to use Amazon's system to request a review. We have a seller assistant app that does that, and in our tool Follow-Up, where you can just utilize the Amazon system where you're not writing anything. You're just hitting the button and Amazon is sending that message for you. You can take advantage of that. Another thing, the last thing, this is not necessarily something that has changed, but something we didn't talk too much about in the original episodes is when you scale your business, there's a lot of financial aspects that, it's not as fun or sexy to talk about, like product research and things like how fast you can turn your inventory over, or how fast you can reinvest. What if you're living in the UK and you're trying to sell in the USA? You don't want to come here and open up a US bank account in order to be able to sell on Amazon. So we were getting all these kinds of questions, and now there's like a solution that kind of helps take care of some of these questions.
Yeah, and I will say that the solution that we're talking about was actually in the works when we were first setting up Project X. There was times when I was in meetings on the other side of the office working through the details of this, and I would come in here and we'd film, and that solution is Alta. Alta is a financial services platform that's built into Helium 10 now that, to my understanding, is completely unique, like in the whole world. And what that was is partnership with a company called Sellers Funding, and we sat down and said, hey, these are the solution that Amazon sellers need. And we've actually utilized those services and those functions for the Project X products and accounts. So the big highlights of Alta, things that you need to be paying attention to, one is marketplace payouts. If you're international, if you're living abroad but selling in the US, you may need a local currency account to receive your Amazon funds and payments, okay? That can be all set up through Alta. If you're in the US, selling in the UK or selling in Canada, when I first started selling in Canada, Amazon would just give me my money every 2 weeks for my Canadian account. I had no idea that they were charging me 4% currency conversion fee to convert from Canadian dollars to US dollars. I had no idea. They've lowered that to 1.5%, but Alta is cheaper. So if you're in the US selling abroad, make sure you're utilizing that marketplace payouts. The next thing that, and right now, the Project X account is using that to expand into Canada, as we speak. The next thing that was very, very powerful was working capital solutions. I hate debt. I hate it on a personal level. But the more and more I learn about business and I get involved with business, I realize that responsible and smart access to capital can really help you scale fast. That's why the biggest brands in the world, Lego and Nike and Coca-Cola, they all utilize working capital, especially for inventory purchases. So when the Alta credit limit was put together, it was put together to be focused specifically on marketplace performance. You don't have to have 2 years of tax returns, and you don't even have to necessarily have a business entity in the US. Depending on some countries that are supported externally, you can be in the UK as a resident, sell on Amazon US with a UK business entity, and be applicable to receive funding. So what's really, really interesting also is that marketplace performance is used to determine creditworthiness, right? So even if your sales numbers aren't huge, you connect your Amazon store to the Alta platform. The Alta platform would analyze, hey, if they had more inventory, would they be able to scale faster? Are they doing things the right way on Amazon, scale faster? And what's typically happening is Alta is offering much larger dollar amounts than traditional banks and even Amazon's new lending. Remember, when COVID started, Amazon even stopped doing lending. Now they've partnered with Goldman Sachs, who's an old archaic bank, and it's not going well. And Alta is very, very consistently offering more money than even the Goldman Sachs. So we utilized Alta for buying more inventory a couple times now, is that right?
Yeah. So the thing that I liked about it, I used to use in my other test accounts, that one that he was talking about, getting money from Amazon. The thing that sucked for me when I would do that is they would tell me, hey, you qualify for $30,000. I didn't have a choice. Like, I either had to say yes or no. Like, yes, I want it, or no, I don't. I couldn't say no, I don't need $30,000. I never needed $30,000. But as soon as I said yes, guess what? From that day, now I'm accruing the interest on that $30,000. Now, for the Project X, we've been ordering these products in kind of like orders of $5,000 to $10,000. So there's this one time, I remember we had an order of $10,000. So what's the typical percentage that you have to put down?
It's typically 30% to your manufacturer.
30%, and that's exactly what this one was. I had to put down $3,000. So I qualified, Project X qualified for $30,000 actually from Alta. But I didn't have to take that $30,000 out. I wasn't paying any interest. I didn't need any money at first. I just qualified for it. Then I was like, okay, I need to pay $3,000 to the supplier as a down payment for this order. So I took out of the line of credit $3,000. Now from that day, I'm only paying the interest, and I only owe $3,000, not $30,000. So it was very beneficial. Then 45 days later, the rest of the product was ready. $7,000 plus the shipping was due. I forgot what it was. It might have been like about $3,000. So then I took out a second draw from the line of credit of $10,000. So I only started paying the interest and things on that $10,000. This was like 45, 50 days later from that initial time. Now, if that was Amazon that I borrowed that money from, I would have been paying money on $30,000, even though I had no use for $30,000 from day one. So that saved, I mean, I can't do the math right now, but that saved a lot of money on interest.
And each one of those draws, you can select the term length. You can say, hey, I need this for 3 months, I need it for 6 months, I need it for all the way up to 12 months. And there's even an interest-only deferment period. And that's powerful because of what you just said, the delay in getting your product. So if I order now, it takes 30 days to produce, 30 days to ship, 2 weeks to get inbound on Amazon. Even if I start ordering now, it's going to take me 2 to 3 months maybe before I'll see the revenue back on that. So with the Alta credit limit, you can actually defer your principal payments until you start making that money back. So that's pretty powerful as well. So if you have been following Project X, if you're already selling, if you're scaling up, there's some criteria. You had to have been selling for 6 months already. You have to have, I think it's $5,000 a month volume at least, just to make it worth your while. And I would stress, make sure that, you're not ever, whether it's Alta or anywhere else, borrowing money out of desperation. If you're behind on your house payment, don't borrow money, from any source based on your Amazon income to pay that. Just use it responsibly for inventory purchase and maybe use it for advertising, for additional infrastructure in your business. Use it responsibly.
So guys, we've got a lot more that we can talk about. We said from the beginning, we were not going to give you like the detail of every, what's the word that starts with an M that you taught me?
Minutia.
I remember I learned that word from Tim here. We didn't get into the minutia of every little aspect, but there definitely are some advanced things that we want to talk to you about, like how to build a Facebook audience, how to get brand registry, how to have A+ content, how to build an Amazon storefront, how to manage your inventory better so that you don't run out of stock like this knucklehead right here. So these are going to be in future modules inside of Freedom Ticket that are going to be based on these Project X products, and you'll be able to see Tim and myself, and we invited some guests as well. So if you are a Helium 10 member, which I think most of you all are, you have full access to the Freedom Ticket module. So make sure to go into your Freedom Ticket account and take a look at the subsequent episodes that we had filmed that go over some of these advanced tactics. And if you're not a Helium 10 member, just you can click down below into the links and you'll find out how to do that.
And this is important. It's important to start gating some of this content, because as we get into the really advanced stuff, I mean, you see what's happened in the YouTube series of Project X. We had all these people copying stuff that we're doing. So as we get into the more and more advanced stuff, we need to be a little bit more careful about where that content goes. That's why we're putting it within Freedom Ticket, so that there's at least a little bit of criteria to sign up and get that access, just so we kind of keep the real secrets hidden. We've got some, not necessarily hidden, but gated a little bit, right? I've got some new product research methods. I've got some new tools that I've never actually talked about publicly, ever, that we're going to be sharing in some of that content. So make sure, if you're not a Helium 10 member and signed up for Freedom Ticket, that you get that done ASAP so you can get into the minutia of selling on Amazon, as well as see some of this future content where we're bringing on actually other experts in specific fields, whether it's traffic generation or PPC or research or any of that stuff. So it's going to be awesome. You definitely check it out.
Yes, and in the very next episode, that is the first one that we have there in Freedom Ticket, we're going to be going over some new product research methods that are off of Amazon, outside of Helium 10, that are very, very interesting. We're going to talk about another knucklehead mistake here. I actually lost the company in the Project X account $3,000 because of a boneheaded mistake, but I got it back from Amazon. I'm going to show you what mistake I made, and then it's a mistake that anybody can make. And then more importantly, the process of how I was able to rectify that mistake. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. We're going to go over some advanced analytics that you should be doing once you're an established seller, using a tool called Market Tracker, and kind of seeing how the performance is on a more niche level, as opposed to just the keyword level or something like that. We're going to talk about some of the advanced PPC strategy that we've been implementing on the Coffin Shelf and Egg Tray. So make sure to get into Freedom Ticket and watch those episodes. We've got tons of other free content out there. You guys see the shirt that Tim has on right now? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so since the last time we met for Project X, we have revived the kind of an old standard in the e-commerce space as far as podcasts, the AM/PM podcast. And we had so much success, I think, with Project X, and I was able to build my relationship with Helium 10 so much that they asked me to take over the AM/PM podcast. So as far as free content goes, there's very, very few better options for free content selling online than the combination of the Serious Seller podcast, which is hosted by Bradley, and the AM/PM podcast, which is hosted by myself. The Serious Seller podcast, we specifically focus on Amazon tactics. Like, we're talking about how to sell on the platform. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, the minutia. And when I decided to start taking over the AM/PM and hosting that, we wanted to change the topics a little bit and focus more on entrepreneurism in general. Things like mindset, things like other business opportunities, all from the perspective and the viewpoint of an Amazon seller. So very complementary info, but very different. We intentionally don't have the same guests. We don't step on each other's toes. So make sure if you haven't... He does
here under the table sometimes.
Under the table, but not in the podcast. So make sure, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to both the Serious Seller podcast and the AM/PM podcast, and start checking out the weekly to 2 times per week episodes of all of those.
How many times have we referenced the blog? Here just in this episode alone, we've got tons of great tutorials and interesting newsworthy facts and figures about Amazon. Helium10.com/blog. Make sure to subscribe there as well. Speaking of news, we have the weekly news right here. If you were watching this on YouTube, we've got that every week where we talk about the latest things that are affecting Amazon sellers out there and just in general in the e-commerce world. Another thing that we've launched, a lot of you have joined, started to use Helium 10 software because of Project X, and we have so many tools, it might be overwhelming, like you don't know where to begin. That's why we made the Academy, the Helium 10 Academy. You can find that at academy.helium10.com. So guys, there are tons and tons of free education out there. And the reason why we do this is because we want you to succeed on Amazon. And we absolutely love the success stories we have heard already of you guys who have been putting into practice the things that we did in the first 15 episodes of this program. And we want to keep that going on throughout 2021 and beyond. So we hope you guys are going to crush it. We hope you guys stick with us until the end of this journey. Who knows? Go ahead and buy the coffin shelf or an egg tray just for sentimentality. And put it up there. Take a selfie with it. Tag us on. What's your Instagram, Tim? I don't think we ever mentioned that before.
Timbo_Jordan. So Timbo Jordan.
Timbo Jordan. I'm H10 Bradley. If you got a coffin shelf or an egg tray in your house, or just a selfie of you going over some of these videos or us being goofy, take a selfie, awesome. Tag us, and we'll repost it and stuff. So, anyways, Tim, any last words of wisdom for everybody out there?
I will say this, 2020 has been insane. It's been crazy, and there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But whether you're talking about 2020 and the COVID pandemic or e-commerce in general, I would tell people to take a deep breath, relax. The world is not ending. The world of e-commerce is just beginning. And whether you're doing a few products reselling a day and making a little money, or if you're growing 8 or 9 figure empire selling on Amazon and becoming omni-channel. The opportunity is there. The education, the experience, the information, the tools is all there. And Bradley and I aren't particularly bright. I know it sounds terrible. Bradley's like, well, I am. But my point is, we're just normal dudes. We just get exposed to this. There are so many of you out there that doubt yourself, that feel like you can't make this work, that feel like you can't be a business owner, that feel like you can't make an impact to your life or your family's life or those around you. And I'm telling you, if Bradley and I can do it, you guys absolutely can. This isn't complicated. It's just complex. There's just a lot of moving parts. So if you're watching this episode now, I think this is episode 16, you're doing a great job. You deserve a pat on the back. It doesn't matter if you haven't launched your first product, if you've launched 50. Just the fact that you're investing the time to go through this content, huge kudos to you. Keep doing it. Don't be, terrified to take that first step. We all had to take that first step. We've all screwed up, but we've learned from it, and life has gone on. So I hope that's a little word of encouragement to you.
Love it. All right, guys. My name is Bradley. I'm from Helium 10, and this has been
Tim Jordan from AMPM Podcast and Private Label Legion.
Thank you. Project X signing off.